Good morning, everybody. I've had quite a few questions regarding the line of balance question number 2.1 in assessment item number 2. And what we'll do is I'll just quickly give you a few more hints so that you can be on your way. It's really not that difficult a question. There's just one or two things that you sort of have to guess along the way. Alright, so the first thing that you have to do is basically create the table with all the relevant information that I've given you. So what I've done here is I've given you the information. There's the activities, there's the M that I've given you, or the person hours per hours, and I've also given you the Q over there. The Q, that's the men per house or the gang size that you're going to use. Alright, so from there it's quite easy for you to calculate G, and it's really easy to calculate T and S. Alright, so those formulas I gave to you as part of the question, you can just use Excel, and that's all that you need. As long as you've got the answers right, you don't need to show me your calculations. You can just write a little formula in Excel, do the table exactly like this, and it should be okay. Alright, so the main thing over here is the calculation of little g. Alright, so little g is the actual gang size in multiples of big Q. Alright, so what you'll have to look at, the answers that you get after calculating big G. Alright, so if we move on to the next slide, there I've calculated basically G for you, just using the simple formula there, 3 times M divided by 40, and the 40 we get obviously from the week that we've got, 5 days at 8 hours, so that gives us the time that we have to use. Alright, so that's where the 40 comes from in that calculation. Alright, so over here we can see that we've got 13.5, and we know that our typical gang size is 6. Alright, so we have to use G, or little g, in multiples of big team size over here. So we've got 13.5. So if we use 2 teams, it's going to get up to 12. If we use 3 teams, we're going to go to 18, and 18 might be a little bit of a waste. Alright, remember, because we've got only 13.5 there. So there's a little bit of a guesswork that you have to think about. Alright, so most of these ones are really simple. There you can see 24, that's a simple one, so we can use 6 teams over there, for instance. The next one over there is 15. We've got team sizes of 4, so if we use 4 teams, we'll get out to 16 over here, which isn't too bad. You just don't want to waste too many resource hours on that. Alright, so if it's just 1 or 2 over, that's fine. If it's getting upwards of 4 or 5 over, that's a little bit much, so rather rationalize on that. 1 or 2 of these activities, for instance the one that I've given you here, activity number E, you can do both ways. You can either use only 2 or you can use 4, depending on how you approach it, and obviously it will change the rest of your formulas. Now you'll see what I've done here is I've added 2 columns in there, which is called T roundup and S roundup. Obviously when you do your assignment, you'll have nice headings and you'll make sure that it's perfectly formatted, otherwise you lose some marks. But for today's exercise, I've just given you these 2 columns. Now why did I use the roundup over here? These roundup numbers are what you're going to use for doing your graph. Alright, remember we have to complete the graph as well, and I'll show you just now how to do that. Alright, so the main crux of this video is therefore little g, you calculate that by guessing. Alright, you guess what is the closest amount to big G. You've calculated big G, and now you know that the team size is whatever is in column Q over there, and just use a little bit of common sense to say, alright, if I've got a team of 6, 6 times 2 is 12, 3 times 6 is 18, 18 is going to cause a lot of wastage over there, so that's why we go for 12 over there. If you go with 1 team, you'll see that your duration is too long, and you'll see that your project might run out of time. Alright, so once you've calculated that, the 2 columns that you're going to need for your graph is basically the T roundup and the S roundup over there. Alright, so this is just a simple way of showing it. You can use different scales over here. This is just straightforward in Excel to show you exactly what I want, and this is what the first answer will look like. Alright, so activity A, there you can see that is what it's going to look like. It starts on day number 0 there, and it finishes on day number 27. Alright, so where do we get that from? Alright, obviously from our table. Remember, there's our day number 27 is the completion date. The project obviously starts on day number 1 or day number 0, and that's why we start that line over there. Alright, so just connect the dots. There's the 27, and we know that there's going to be a 4-day delay. Why do we know that? Because we have it over there. Alright, so the next line that we have to add in starts day number 4, and we know that what the duration for that activity is going to be, so the end date sits over there at 31. Just some more information on activity number B. We know that it starts on day number 12 and that it finishes on day number 36, and that's from our calculation that we've made, and therefore we can say, alright, there's that difference over there, the 5 days that I've given you. Alright, so this is just the first step. You now have to add in the second line over there, and you can use different scales. If you're going to use this scale, you'll see your page just gets way too big, so I suggest you guys use a smaller scale, even just adding it a little bit easier in there, making sure that you use, what you'll need is over here at least 110 on that scale, and on this scale you need at least 15. Alright, so you can play around with the scales until you find the sweet spot where everything fits onto one page. You have to show all of this graph on one single page. Alright, so hopefully that will help you along the way. If any more questions, just post them onto the website.